We just discussed the importance of keeping your pivot table raw data separate from all of your analysis. To stay consistent with this, we will be pivoting off of the data in the tab named Raw Coffee Production. From now on, our raw data will always be contained in a tab that has raw before the name and is highlighted in black. Okay, if we go to this raw data, you'll notice that I made one small change in this column. I changed the date from just the year, for example 2010, to the last date of the year, 12/31/2010. Why did I do this? Well, I did this because Excel does not recognize just the number of a year as a date format. For Excel to recognize a value as a date, the cell also must contain a day and a month. And working with dates in Excel pivot tables is a little different than working with other data types. So we're going to learn about that in this lecture. Okay, let's build a new pivot table using this source data. Let's use the shortcut Alt-N-V-T, choose Existing Worksheet, and then go into the Formatting tab because this is the formatting lecture. Choose a location inside the tab and click OK. We haven't worked with a real date value in our Excel pivot tables yet, so pay attention when I drag the date into our rows. Two things popped up that I did not drag into the rows: quarters and years. This is because when you insert a row in a pivot table with a date value, Excel will automatically cut the date in different ways. Here, they just list years in quarters, but if we had more granular data, it actually might cut it in different ways, including month, day, hour, second. Okay, our years are displayed at the highest level, but if we open it up, we see the quarter. And if we open up the quarter, we see the actual date. This behavior of pivot tables, where Excel slices the data into different subsets of data, is called grouping. Pivot tables default to this to make analysis easier when it comes to time series data. You might not want to see the grouped versions of your dates. So to show the raw date values from your source data, simply right-click on your data and then go to Ungroup. Or use the shortcut Alt-Shift-Left arrow key. However, now that I see it, I feel that the full date actually makes our table look a little bit cluttered. Let's format our dates through regrouping. To group your data, simply right-click on your date values and go to Group, or use the shortcut Alt-Shift-Right arrow. Here, Excel gives you 7 different options for grouping your data in your pivot table: seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, quarters, and years. I want to group my pivot table by years, but if you want to group by anything else, it's the exact same process. You simply highlight what you want to group by, unhighlight what you don't want to group by, and then click OK when you're ready. Now, my Excel pivot table shows a clean row label that increments by 1 year. Okay, now let's click and drag our production field into our values. Here we have a pivot table that displays total coffee production by year between 2010 and 2019. But when we look at the values in our pivot table, we see that the number formatting has not carried over from our raw data tab and doesn't include any number formats like commas. This will always be the case with pivot tables. They're never going to carry over the formatting from the source data. To format values in a pivot table, simply right-click the column header of the values that you want to change. Then go to Number Format, and now you can select the formatting you desire. I'm going to go to Number, do 0 decimal places, and use the thousand separator. Click OK, and now our numbers look a lot better. Okay, you can also apply conditional formatting to pivot tables in a very similar way to applying conditional formatting to a set of cells. First, let's highlight the set of cells that we want to apply conditional formatting to. I typically don't highlight the grand total because it's going to throw off the conditional formatting. Say I want to show a sliding color scale to show the magnitude of different numbers. I would go to the Home tab of the ribbon, choose Conditional Formatting, choose Color Scales, and then this first one looks pretty good. Now, my data is formatted in a way that is visually easy to interpret. Generally, we can see that there has been an overall increase in coffee production over the 10 years between 2010 and 2019, with the obvious exceptions of 2013 to 2014 and 2018 to 2019.